This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's episode of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Strozinski, and on today's show, it's a big one. We've got a ton of stuff to talk about. We left a whole bunch on the cutting room floor last week. Some stuff we're going to come back and scoop up and cram into this episode. But we've got the reason why some names are being changed in WWE, and does it really make sense? I have no clue. I don't think so, but we're going to talk about it. Also, what's going on with Brock Lesnar? Advertised for Backlash. Is he going to be there? We got the inside scoop on that, as well as everything that's taking place in the world of wrestling, and doing it with me as always. He's the one. He's the only. To beat the man, you got to be the man, and he is the man. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. What's up, cuz?
Cuz I can argue that this week was arguably one of the best weeks of wrestling of the calendar year. Better than WrestleMania. You had Raw in Detroit. You had a banger of a Dynamite. Rampage had a Texas death match. Smackdown, you finally got to see what this unification of the tag team titles is going to be all about. Oh my God. I took it all in, watched Impact as well, which we'll talk about today. This week, I will argue, was amongst the best of the year, and we absorbed it all. I can't wait to break it all down. Big shout out to Kenny. Working in television has its perks. And it's interesting, too, because a lot of people will say sitting on the camera side is not ideal. I'll argue it might be the best situation. Yeah, there was some shit in the way, but I'll argue that free tickets, you can't beat it. And
that's where I want to start. So walk us through what took place on Monday, because we had no inclination of going to Monday Night Raw. You ended up going with Kenny. Kenny got some tickets. Just kind of take us through the experience. So you sat camera side, obviously.
Yeah.
What was that like? Because that's something that's a place where I don't think any of us ever choose to sit.
Yeah.
None of us really ever picked to sit there.
And we wondered too, because those tickets were not. I browsed. Those tickets were not available for sale as of Monday. I think then Monday they released some, because Kenny was saying, well, typically those are chunk of tickets that are reserved for promotions, like maybe the Cricket Wireless, the Verizon. They basically have a chunk of tickets for, the dignitaries, and they don't release them until they know that, okay, this chunk of people are not coming. So then Kenny's like, yeah, the person that was going to take them had something come up. And that's the way it is nowadays. People get sick last minute and they just dump off tickets and they just say, hey, do you want to go? And Kenny reached out and said, look, it's last minute. I understand it's this. And he was like, you want to go? And I'm like, yeah, why not? And I said, it was funny. It was because not for Cody Rhodes. I was excited for that. But it's like when you get to take in an AJ Styles match and an intro, I just couldn't say no. So I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's handle business and let's go down there. And it was enjoyable. They did some things in between the commercials that made it a lot more fun. But because the thought that I had, the overriding thought that I had was, when I saw how they treated Cody Rhodes, was, if you're going to be pushed by a wrestling company and you're guaranteed a push, attention, like love, a company showing you love, there's no better company in the world than the WWE. I mean, they've planned it perfectly. A Miz TV that opened the show, we were all like, wait a minute, they're going to start the show with Cody Rhodes? And it was the Miz that came out, and boom, he introduces Cody Rhodes, and he has amazing pyro. It's just set the scene. He had like a 5-minute introduction, which Miz highlighted. Miz did his thing, and it kicked off the show flawlessly. Then, like I said, to have 2 entrances from Cody Rhodes was awesome. It was just a fun night all the way around. Yeah, there's a little bit of an impediment in your view, but all the wrestlers are looking at you. So I would take camera side, and so I looked, those seats, they mark them way down because of the way they are. But for someone like me, if you're into the wrestling and the ring and seeing that more than the entrances, then camera side's not for you. But for us, we were sitting right by the entrances, so we got to see a firsthand look of all the wrestlers coming down, got video of it all. So if you're a fan of the entrances more than the ring, and the action in the ring, then camera side, lower bowl there, you can get tickets, I think, for $30. If you can just wait and get them late, you can get them really inexpensively. And, Kenny's had an opportunity. He's got it in. And we went down there, and luckily I saved my voice. I said, okay, our goal is to lose our voice. But we handled ourselves like adults, and we had a good time with it. And it was an amazing Monday Night Raw in being there for Cody Rhodes. And my biggest takeaway was, if you're going to get over and a company guarantees you attention, there's no bigger company to do it in than WWE. Pyro, feeling important, feeling like you're a big deal. 2 opportunities. Basically, you're on the show for 40 minutes. So there's no better way to have attention and get yourself over if you're guaranteed that in the WWE.
Well, the one thing I want to get your perspective on. So Cody Rhodes now has a new entrance. What did you think of that? Because you got to take it in live. You got to see it all. I know Kenny was really down on Cody Rhodes' entrance last week when he was on the show with us. And it sounds like he had a 180-degree change. Like, he's so up on it. I want to know what you thought of the new entrance.
It was amazing. Yes, the smoke is much better. It felt important. Smoke and pyro as opposed to boxes and coming up. Like, he's done that before.
There's no Mr. Potato Head in the middle of the entrance.
Exactly. They corrected it quickly. And it made him feel big time. Like, his entrance felt like, and Kenny described it best, it felt like a world championship entrance. And it was awesome to see live. It was pretty cool. It was very, very cool to see. It just basically said, it felt like you were in the midst of somebody important. Now, it's Cody Rhodes. We've seen him before, but it just had the WWE attention on him. And that's what you would like for the likes of Seth Rollins, for the likes of Kevin Owens, a little bit more of, highlighting those that are important. And that's how you do it. And see, the WWE, now it's Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar. Then there's a lot, probably a large gap in between, with probably Cody Rhodes being the next guy that's shooting up there real fast. The crowd in Detroit loved him. And I will say this, the crowd in Detroit was way better than the crowd. I don't know how it came across on TV, but the crowd there was hyped start to finish. And the dark match was cool. And Paul Heyman got the crowd riled up. The crowd was juiced. The crowd, I will say, made the night 50% better because they were hyped, they were into it, the boys were into it, the wrestlers were into it, and it made for a really fun show, and it felt important. And you got to see the kickoff of the Usos and RK Bro. That was sweet. They feel important. It was awesome. And then to see Roman Reigns' entrance was sweet. Really, like I said, I think if you look at Raw, the only thing that disappointed everybody was the finish of AJ Styles, which is like, you had a banger of a match. They were going at it, AJ doing his thing, and all of a sudden, Damien Priest just does his thing and transforms into some transformative vampire state and ends the match.
Yeah.
That was the shittiest part of the whole night.
What
because everybody
was that? like for real, what was that?
That was stupid. That was silly writing. What is this, a transformation live on Raw? It hurt because you could have just had Damien Priest win. I mean, the crowd really, that was one match where everybody wanted AJ to win. They wanted to see his aggression. And to end it like that left a lot of people going, what? Huh? It was the only really downside of a night that you could give an A- for Raw.
What do you think about this? Because this is what the speculation is, and I don't know what direction they're going with it. Because on TV, I don't know how it came across in the arena, but on TV, it was the dumbest thing in the world. This was a really good match, and then all of a sudden there's like this bluish purple light, and you were like, what? Like, what is it? Like, I remember watching it being like, what the hell's going on? And then we come back from commercial. You've got Jimmy Smith trying to explain some deal with the electrical and the power. And you were just like, wait, what? Like, huh? And like, the match is done now? Like, I thought that we were going to have a continuation of this match, and the match was just done. So it just felt off, and it didn't really work. But if you remember, with the Brood, and I think this is kind of the direction that they want to go in. They want to tap into that old vein with the Brood. It was kind of Lost Boys-esque. You remember Lost Boys was a great movie in the 80s revolving teenage vampires. Had Keith Sutherland in it. It was, I don't know, it was a really good movie. I liked it a lot when I was a kid. But I think they kind of want to tap into that vein of the Brood. And I think that might be where they're going. And I don't think we actually get the full explanation for this until the entire we'll call it the covenant, is put together, right? So Damien Priest is the first piece. I think Rhea Ripley will be the second piece. There is discussion that Tommaso Ciampa might be added to this, but I think Rhea Ripley is going to be that next piece that gets added, and I think she gets added on Monday. What do you think about that possibly being the direction that they're going? Kind of going back to the old Brood way.
It makes sense. It's over. It's something done. But look, I think bottom line is, what we see with WWE is their count-out finishes, their roll-up finishes, their finishes where they don't get the payoff, especially with a good match. People just don't like it. Wonky finishes, I understand not every match can be entrance, good wrestling match, finish. But by and large, I think the largest portion of your audience that's into it wants to see a finish, a conclusion. So I think the worst thing that you can do is just have a match stop. That's what they did. The next worst thing is a count out. The next worst thing is a DQ. The next is a finish, but it's a roll up. And then, and then finally something where the person that you don't want to win ends up winning. So in that vein, I just think that WWE would just be perfect by just, bottom line, it's WWE, it's Edge, it's Raw. You have Edge come down and interfere. Do a reverse situation where this time AJ Styles is about to win, but Edge comes out, from under the ring or something crazy, or from out of the crowd, and he distracts them. You just boom, easy night for Edge, in and out. He stands there, the light shines on him. AJ Styles looks, boom, Damien Priest does the finisher, and he loses. I mean, that's how it should go in regards to wrestling on television, which is great entrances, great commentary with a finish. And I think that's what the only really disappointing part was. Enjoyed the bachelor party, enjoyed R-Truth and the gimmick there. It really had a lot to it. But I will say this, and it's now noticeable, the women are getting 5 minutes. Bianca, the women,
2-minute matches.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, it's noticeable. It's noticeable. Like, wait a minute, where's the revolution here? You got Bianca Belair. You got really talented women in that locker room, and they're getting out there for 3 minutes each and 2 matches, and you're like, whoa. And the likes of the tag team went way long. So I just think that maybe there's something to that you got to pay attention to. How did you think of Raw overall, watching it on television?
I mean, I thought it was a good Raw. I thought the crowd was great. Thought it was incredibly hyped. I think opening with Cody Rhodes, having Miz TV, and letting those guys just kind of go. And Cody was allowed to say words that are forbidden. Cody's has been given a huge leash here, and I think that's great. And the Miz is a guy who can carry an entire segment and could carry a blow-up doll all at the same time and make it work. So you got these two guys kicking your show off. You know it's going to be good. I thought it was a good match as well. I thought Seth Rollins coming down, and you're going to have a continuation of that feud. I thought that's good. Like, Seth Rollins is one of the top heels in WWE. We're going to go through a list, going down the list to see who's tops on which brand here later on in news and notes. But it was a really good Raw. I thought the way you finished was really well as well, where you had Street Profits taking on the Usos. That was a fantastic match. We haven't even talked about that yet, but that was a great match. And then you get the build for what took place on Friday with SmackDown, where RK Bro shows up on SmackDown and calls out the Usos. And then we get the confirmation that at Backlash, we're going to have the unifying tag team match. So I think the way Raw was put together, I think some parts of it were very, very sloppy. Like the Damien Priest AJ Styles match. I thought some of the stuff that happened with the women was very sloppy. I thought some of the programs or the programming where they would have vignettes and they would tell stories, and then you would come back and it was like a Kevin Owens story, but Bianca Belair's in the match. I thought that stuff was sloppy. That's not how WWE usually operates. But I thought overall the show was really, really good. I thought the crowd was hot. I thought that was great. I want to transition to SmackDown. We talked a little bit about SmackDown because there's some crossover here with Raw and SmackDown. You've seen with Randy Orton and RKO showing up on Friday Night SmackDown. They cut a pretty nice promo. I thought it was absolutely great. The Usos come down. They cut a great promo. The Usos are good for a promo. They end up challenging each other for the unification of the belts. This is something that I've taken away from watching Randy Orton in this role with Matt Riddle. He's having so much fun right now. There was a point where he was standing in the middle of the ring on Friday night, and the crowd was so hot for Randy Orton that he was about to start to cut his promo, gave the mic to Matt Riddle, and jumps back up on the ring post and does his pose one more time and laughs. He's like, all right, now I got to cut the promo. Like, you can see him mouth, I got to go. I got to do it. So now he starts cutting his promo, and he just looks like he is having so much fun. I think this version of Randy Orton, and we've seen all the versions of Randy Orton, I think this version of Randy Orton is the best version of Randy Orton that we are getting. He's fun. He's likable. You know that in the back of your mind, this dude can turn on the top of a hat, and it makes you sit on the edge of your seat because every week you're waiting for him to just snap. You're waiting for him to turn, which is why I go back a couple of weeks ago when we talked about this. I think Riddle turning on Orton would be fantastic because you're not expecting it. You're waiting for Randy Orton to turn. I think Randy Orton cut such a hot promo. It was straight fire. It was lava coming out of his mouth on Friday night. I think this version of Randy Orton is the best version of Randy Orton. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. It's a nice run. Tag team wrestling can extend your career by 5 years because you're not bumping as much. You're having fun. He's over. Riddle and him have really taken something that at first we were like, why is Randy Orton with Matt Riddle? What a weird pairing. And they've made it fun. They've made it over. The crowd loves them. But at the same time, I think it's the perfect feud with the Usos. The Usos came out hot too. And in Detroit on SmackDown, they also now have been given the light and the rub off of working with Roman Reigns. And it makes it amazing. RK Bro versus Usos is a money matchup. And I thought the match that Riddle had was amazing. I thought that, the opportunity now to have some singles matches intermixed with all these guys was amazing. And the crowd's into it. This is a nice kickoff into Backlash, is to have an opportunity to have some feuds that are going to be really spectacular. The visual of Orton, Riddle, and the Usos holding the belts up was great. And then we have to credit the Street Profits because the spot of the night is, the young man, Montez Ford, flips over the top rope in front of Orton and Riddle, lands on his feet, and then proceeds to gyrate
do the shimmy shake, man.
The shimmy shake in a manner that everybody was like, what the hell? Even cracking
It was
Randy.
so hot. It was great.
It was great. It was great live. It was just frenetic, fantastic. All the superlatives that you could say and bestow upon a performer. That was it. They're important. They're elevating themselves as well, and they're always going to be in the mix. But they just have to upgrade their ring gear. That's the deal with the Street Profits is they got great on the mic, but they're wrestling like their budget says, well, we can only afford the $200 ringlets. A little bit. Just go back and if you have a chance, go back and look at Cody Rhodes glistening top to bottom in the match, and then look at underrated. The Miz's outfit on Monday was glistening and glowing and sparkly. It was awesome. And then you look at the Street Profits, and it looks like they kind of emailed Eddie Kingston and were like, "Where can we get stuff that looks? Where can we get stuff that's cool, but will get us by for like $200? Maybe they're on the $250K plan that Triple H told the Athletic, but they got to step it up. They need some sparkles. It needs to be a little bit more than the average. You're on Raw, and you're in this singlet and a T-shirt that." It does not fly in regards to their outfit compared to the others.
And you're one of the best tag teams.
Yeah,
Monday Night
exactly.
Raw.
You got to sparkle. I think maybe they're, I don't know. I know that that's not good enough. It's just not. Because comparatively speaking, the other guys are shimmering and glimmering and they look sweet. You maybe just go to the tights. I don't know what you got to do, but you got to improve it if you want to get to the next level. And so that wraps up. SmackDown was cool. It was really good, interesting, a lot of progression of the angles, but, it kind of built to the crescendo. A little bit long on the promos and recaps and all that stuff, but by and large, I felt the last match was quality, and WWE capped off a nice week, and they're on their way to Backlash in a fun and interesting way.
Yeah, it's something that I wanted to bring back from last week because you said to highlight it and you wanted to talk about it. So we've got some old faces with new names on both Raw and SmackDown. And we're going to talk about this a little bit in news and notes. There's a directive from Vince McMahon on it. So I don't want to get too deep into it. I just kind of want to know what your initial reaction is to seeing guys like Gunther, guys like, or girls like Raquel Rodriguez, who was once Raquel Gonzalez. You have all these people called up and their names are changed. Austin Theory is no longer Austin Theory. He's just Theory, which I think is dumb. What's your take on this? To me, it's a little bit disjointing, especially when you watch and you get invested in a character that is on WWE programming, and then you get them brought up to a different brand, or they basically just switch colors. The aprons switch colors. A lot of the way the ring is set up, it's just different colors. And all of a sudden, it's a different person too. Like, wait, what? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. It's jarring.
Yeah, I think the biggest one is they made Elias turn into Ezekiel. You know, and Kevin Owens highlighted that. That is funny, and that is an angle that's underrated.
Did you see the photo? Did you see the photo with him standing next to himself?
It's photoshopped, guys.
Dude, that is such good Photoshop.
It's so good. It's a great way of doing it. It is classic. It's very good. But I love Kevin Owens going, am I in a Twilight world here with Twilight Zone? What's going on? You are Elias. And he's like, and he's deadpanning. It's I don't know if it's a rib for the boys, but it's something funny. And
Tommaso Ciampa being like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's not Elias.
That's Ezekiel.
That
exactly.
great.
That was good. It's Kevin Owens can really highlight it. But see, here's the thing too. The previews now for Raw for the next crowd don't seem good. A lie detector and 2 weddings? I mean, you're talking probably about 40 minutes just killed with gimmicks, you know? So I'm not down for that. I thought Raw had just amount of action, and what they did in Detroit was they had like the John Cena cam where you could do the You Can't See Me, and they had a dance-off, and they had a couple other interactive stuff that killed commercials that really were a good time. In regards to having the fans be interacting in the midst of all the commercials. So it made it pass by real fast because you got to see people having a good time with it with Cena and the other interactions that they had. So I look at it like it was a great opportunity. Real interesting, you know, if you're willing to sacrifice view and a little bit of obstruction for entrances. Yeah, ringside to the left of, the ring by the entrances is a real quality situation that they call camera side. All right, AEW, because they held their own too, but I'm not sure how to feel about Dynamite because they had a situation in regards to a debut that didn't go well. Let me wrap up real quick. Let me real quick wrap up my thoughts. I don't like any of the name changes, any of them. Austin Theory going to Theory is stupid. I don't find one name change that I'm like, oh, great job. It just... You built these characters through the gimmicks that you gave them. Just allow it. And I know you're going to explain the reason why. None of them have gone right. And it just always ends up feeling like you and I and Kenny probably end up going, oh, this guy's on the path to getting cut. If you're getting your name changed, if you're just, they're not anything spectacular. Going from that to that, from Austin Theory. Austin Theory was cool. Austin Theory is a cool name. Theory sounds stupid.
He seems like he's got all the potential in the world, at least the way that they've built him.
Yeah. And now
to go change his name doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. Dynamite held its own. Man, you always have a good opportunity when the first match of the night, I believe, was CM Punk versus Penta. And it
was a great match, too.
Going at it. And it was good. I liked Dynamite all the way up until the crowd was hot for Samoa Joe.
All the way up until the final 2 minutes of the show, eh?
Right. And
in the overrun. It was an overrun as well.
Yeah. So it's crazy because you have Samoa Joe win a title. It's great. Lights go out and you're like, oh, who's going to come out?
Hold on. Before we get there, what did you think about the match with Minoru Suzuki? Because that was like, I was uncomfortable watching that match. Like, Joe turned a different color of red that I've never seen before.
It was a banger, but I don't like that. I don't like just sitting there standing. Look, you can do the chop bit where you slowly chop each other and the crowd goes wild, but they went 20 chops too deep into it. You then got to go into the moves, which is headlock, turnover, that was way too long with the chops. It's like, okay, the crowd was into it. I get it, but that can be used a little bit too much to get the crowd into it. I think it would have been better served to just go, maybe one cycle or two less with the chops and start getting into some punches and moves and slams and stuff like that. But Minoru Suzuki's entrance was fire. His gimmick is fire. They pumped him up in the commentary. So you were made to believe he was very important. So I definitely was intrigued by the entire match. And Samoa Joe was made to be a monster, which was great.
Yeah, look, I thought it was a really good match. This is something that we don't usually get to see here. You don't get to see a guy like Minoru Suzuki wrestle in the States live. A lot of times when we get to watch it, it's a lot of either taped footage from New Japan or from one of the Japanese promotions, or it is something that we're streaming illegally, and it's usually kind of choppy and it goes in and out and it buffers so hard. So to get to see him live, I thought was fantastic. I thought this match shows you, it helps elevate Joe in a way that it makes Joe seem like he's an absolute killer. And I get what you were saying about the match as far as the flow goes, because there wasn't a whole lot of flow with that match. It was just a lot of standing around and dudes smacking each other in the chest until their chests looked like hamburger meat for what felt like 30 minutes. It was probably only 10, maybe 15. But it shows you how powerful Joe really is. To go toe-to-toe with, I believe Kenny referred to him as Crazy Grandpa, it just shows you that this guy backs down from nobody, and he's able to take an ass whipping and keep on ticking. So I like the match from that perspective. Yeah, I thought the overall match itself, if you had to give it a grade, if you wanted to give it a letter grade, probably a C, maybe a C minus. And I thought, this was nothing that was going to, I guess, tear the house down or necessarily have us talking days later. You can appreciate it for what it was. What has us talking days later is what then followed. And I want you just to kind of go on and talk about this, because we have the debut of a new character, and it happened. And I don't know. Me and you are both wrestling nerds, and lights go out, lights come back on, and I'm like, I don't know who that guy is.
Yeah, who's that? It's a big dude.
That like the bootleg Great Khali? Who is that?
Right.
But I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. I couldn't. So walk me through what your first impression was to the introduction of Satnam Singh.
Yeah, it's Satnam Singh.
Satnam, sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't even get the name right.
And here's the reason why. And it's sometimes you look at things and post-mortem, you can break it all down and say what went wrong. The commentary actually made it worse.
Yeah.
Because here's why. You have Tony Schiavone really trying to hype up, oh my God, I went to Atlanta to see this guy train. You're like, wait a minute. You just debuted a guy to be important that's a rookie? That's somebody. And then unfortunately, Satnam, in the moves that he did, made it worse because he wasn't crisp. He looked like a guy that was day 2 in developmental. He just grabbed Joe and kind of haphazardly pushed him in. And his clothesline was basically sticking his arm out and moving it 2 inches. It wasn't forceful. It wasn't fluid. He's not ready for a main card debut. Oh, no. This was a situation in which you needed vignettes. You needed to have him train a lot more. You got Tony Schiavone. I've seen this guy. This is a former NBA player. It's Satnam Singh, and he's really important. It's like, we just saw him move, and he looks like somebody that was like day 2, and they're like, clothesline him, and he just sticks his arm out. And it's
if we could have had half of the build for Veer and his coming, as he was like edging for 6.5 months trying not to come, if we could have the just half of what we got for Veer for Singh, it would have been great. It would have gave you it would have got you hyped for it. So then when the lights go out and lights come back on, and you've got this massive, almost 8 foot tall Indian giant standing behind Samoa Joe, you're like, oh, all right, cool. Here we go. Let's rock and roll. You didn't get that. It was poor. It's weird because there's a lot of stuff that we do with AEW, right? Like, we are generally effusive in our praise of what AEW does. And it's because they do things that fans want. They do things a lot of times the right way, And I do feel bad sometimes because I feel like we look at AEW not through I guess tinted glasses. Like, we looked at everything that WWE provides us, and we're always highly skeptical of it. We're always looking at it like, okay, well, when's this tag team going to break up? Because that's what WWE does. They've trained us this way. Well, why would WWE do it this way? And it could be good, and we're still looking for the negative in it, because there's usually something that's going to come down the road. AEW hasn't really done that to us. It hasn't really damaged us in that way. This is probably one of the first times AEW has, I don't even want to say under-delivered, because I'll be honest with you, I totally forgot that Jay Lethal and Sanjay Dutt were supposed to be planning a big surprise for Samoa Joe. I totally forgot that. I don't think that was mentioned throughout the broadcast until maybe the final 4 minutes of the broadcast. So I totally forgot about that. We could have closed the night with Samoa Joe celebrating his championship, and I would have been like, all right, cool, and just kept it moving. Instead, we got this. And this was not good. And there's a reason why we were served this plate of massive Indian man, and it's because there's a deal going on to get AEW over in India, and this is a way to kind of push that forward and kind of get that viewership up over in India. So like, I get the business point of it, but it was just poorly executed. It wasn't very good.
Yeah, and the viewership, on YouTube was good for it. So there was, reasoning that they did it, but yeah, it just came off a lot disappointing. And Tony Khan went on Busted Open and said that a veteran of 30 years suggested it, and nobody in production said, well, maybe this is not going to turn out to be something worthy. That's kind of crazy, where you have all these people, then basically you're saying you have a bunch of yes men who don't understand that not one person said, maybe this is going to come off flat. The crowd was dead. The crowd was literally like, what the fuck is this?
Well, you just had a pretty hot match where Samoa Joe gets a championship that's important to wrestling geeks. And I think AEW fans are wrestling geeks. You know what I'm saying? The WWE fans are a little bit different, especially hardcore WWE fans. They don't mind being spoon-fed certain stuff. AEW fans are usually fans of Ring of Honor, fans of MLW, fans of Impact. They're fans of all wrestling. So the Ring of Honor Television Championship, like, that's a really important belt. That was a belt that Jay Lethal held for freaking ever. That was a belt that I would tune in whenever I could get a Ring of Honor broadcast, and I would watch because I wanted to see how that belt was going to be defended. So if you're a ROH fan, or if you're an AEW fan, you're probably an ROH fan, and you understand the importance of that belt. So it was just poorly executed.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, it brings an A show down to a B-. And that's what it does. And you have to, look, you live and learn. You live and learn. Now let's see how this plays out moving forward. But boy, Joe is over. And as long as he stays healthy, if he can work a reasonable schedule, maybe the once a week, twice a week kind of thing will allow him to extend his career for the next 3 to 4 years, because he deserves a nice run, maybe even up to the title. He's got the ROH title, ROH TV title, reuniting a feud with Jay Lethal. It's fine, but you'd like to see Samoa Joe do some important things in his run with AEW.
Yeah, most definitely. It'll be interesting to see kind of how they proceed and how they go forward. A couple of things I want to get your thoughts on. Now, you have Wardlow break in, and Wardlow basically demolish all the security again, costs MJF the match. I thought it was great. I think Wardlow has unlimited potential. I think he's got the look. I think Wardlow is a dude who's a powerhouse. I think he can move in the ring. I think Wardlow, the promo needs to come up a little bit, but I think Wardlow, his potential is absolutely endless. I see Wardlow almost as, and don't laugh, okay? Don't laugh about this. I see Wardlow almost as that Goldberg character in WCW, as that Kevin Nash character in WCW, the big, tall, hulking giant who's damn near impervious. And I don't know if they're going to go that route with Wardlow, where they give him that Goldberg push, where he's, 7,400-0 to win a championship. I don't think that's going to happen, but I see the makings and I see the potential in this guy. And I think he's got a lot of things really working in his favor. Yeah. 1, his physical structure. 2, he gets it. Like, your moneymaker is your face. He sells with his face so well. You go back to the whole thing with MJF cutting promos on CM Punk and saying different things where he's just taking jabs at Wardlow, and Wardlow's selling it the whole time in the ring. And he does a good job of selling with his body and basically speaking with how he's feeling with his body. On top of that, he's got the look. Like, the guy looks great. I want to know what your overall impressions of Wardlow are, and where do you think his potential lies?
Yeah, I think he has the opportunity to be a force. But like I said, a little too soon. I think he needs some feuds. He needs to get some in-ring work. He needs to put together the total package, kind of along the lines of young wrestlers that are just into it, that you see potential in, that need reps. So maybe he needs to be on both shows, Dynamite, Rampage, for the next few months, and get in there, get in the reps, get in the work, handle his business, get the TV time, get the promos up, because there's been a lot of brutes that have been out there, you know? There's been a lot of guys that have come through that have been this big type, you know, that have been able to, you know, really work and do things. But you don't want to end up like a Norton in WCW. You want to end up like a Goldberg. So you got to work your way up. But this is a great feud to do it. And absolutely, Wardlow has the potential to be a star. They see it. They know it. And now they're letting him shed his ties to MJF. And MJF, I thought with the gimmick with the jacket was classic. It was very good. And I thought for a second, wait a minute, are they really having an outfit wardrobe botch? But when he took it off, it was smooth heel tactics, and MJF is doing his thing. Working with MJF will kick off the process for Wardlow. He's got the makings of a star, and I think it'll be great to see his progression.
What do you think about Powerhouse Hobbs? I think Powerhouse Hobbs got a massive win over Keith Lee, whether it was shady or not. But this is another guy who has really transformed himself. You go back to when Powerhouse Hobbs came into AEW. I don't want to say he looked sloppy. He was just big. He was a large dude. This dude is now cut, jacked, chiseled. He's another guy who I think does a really good job of selling with his face. I think he has the ability to become that next big man, like that big guy who's just all power and can just throw you around a ring. I thought he got a massive win that really helps catapult him and makes you look at him a little bit different. But what do you think the ceiling is for Powerhouse Hobbs?
Ceiling is high, baby. Another guy. Oh my God. What a great opportunity that he's had working with Ricky Starks. And it's a great opportunity. Look, it's just one of those things where the town that they were in was the hometown of Ricky Starks, and everybody was like, yeah, New Orleans, you know, and so they had an opportunity for it. And so it was cool. So I'll take it all day long. And you had a great situation in regards to having a nice match with Ricky Starks. Wow. And Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs, I think he's got the look, got the ability. Now you just got to, be able to put the tools all together, have quality matches, and be consistent with it. That's the key, is that you can't do it 1 week, you can't be over 1 week and then have a dud the next. It's consistency, it's growing, and the great opportunity is AEW is starting to reap the rewards of some development of some young cats that are really going to do some great things. Yeah,
I agree with you 110%. Something else that I want to talk to you about before we switch into Rampage and we start talking about a little bit about Rampage. What do you think about the potential between FTR, who at this point no longer heels? They are more babyface than anything else. They might walk that gray line if they're with MJF, but they are babyface, taking on Jurassic Express. And I think what you have here with FTR has two belts from two different companies, right? They've got Ring of Honors, and they've got AAAs. And it looks to me as though they are going after the AEW Tag Team Championships. What do you think about a potential match between these two? And the thing about matches is usually it's styles that create matches. FTR, very tactical, very wear you out, ground and pound, smit you. They wrestle a very old school style of wrestling where they cut the ring off and they do a lot of good psychology. I think they do some of their best work with a team like the Young Bucks, because Young Bucks are it's like a mile a minute with Young Bucks. They're just go, 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 go. And a lot of times Young Bucks don't sell anything. So I think with FTR, it helps slows the Young Bucks down a little bit. There's more psychology. They usually have fantastic matches. Jurassic Express, I think, kind of walks that middle line where there's some psychology, there's some no selling, and it's sometimes very fast paced. What do you think about a potential match between FTR and Jurassic Express?
Oh, it's going to be fire, right? It's going to be fire. FTR is over. I mean, people like to see FTR top of the card, top guys. People really have gravitated towards them. And I think Tony Schiavone in that moment, or commentary, whoever said it, said the right thing. They said that Jungle Boy looked like a nervous wreck 2 years ago, but with more reps and now with each opportunity that has been bestowed upon him, he looks comfortable. He's doing his moves, doing high spots, calculated risks. Him and Luchasaurus have steadily risen, and their run has been quality. So I'll take that all day long, and I can't wait to see it. I like FTR. I like the way that they've been promoted. I like everything that's been done. So let's get after it. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good match. I don't know if it'll be a classic. I just talked about styles, and I think I don't know if Jurassic Express's style necessarily meshes 100% well with FTR, but I think it'll be a really good match. I think it'll be interesting. If by chance these two do collide, who goes over? Does FTR go over, or does Jurassic Express stay over?
FTR, baby. You got to build the stars. So FTR, and let Jurassic Express hit some of the other tag teams as well, with Santana and Ortiz, with Red Dragon, with other stuff. Oh, my God. They don't need to be in the title picture right now. Let FTR hit the big boys and handle everything with, man, could you imagine FTR taking on, John Moxley and Bryan Danielson?
Oh my God, it'd be great.
See?
That would be great. That would be a fantastic match.
Exactly.
I'd pay all the monies to see that match.
Exactly. So that's where they need to be going with it, and that's where the cash is printed.
Yep. What did you think about Rampage starting at 7 this week? I thought it was great.
I thought it was great too, because of the fact that SmackDown tends to lull, so you get some action first, and plus because of the fact that we knew we were getting Adam Cole taking on the Hangman Page. It was great. I thought the spot with them getting the crowd and Page drinking a beer, throwing it at Page, and then going to the ref. Where is he? It was kind of funny. The match was brutal. I said I wanted. This was a match. When you say Texas Death Match, of course, my mind goes into exploding rings and violence and thumbtacks and cages and shit like that. One piece of barbed wire going into it.
This was actually a last man standing match. This was no Texas Death Match.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was promoted the wrong way.
Exactly. And we knew it. I mean, we're wrestling fans. You knew it wasn't going to be that violent on television. So I said in our group chat, if there's no flaming table, this match can't get an A. Because that's what you've done. That's you reap what you sow. When you throw out a Texas Death Match, you need to have some flames, some flaming tables going. But the final spot was great. He pinpointed Cole through the table perfectly. Mm-hmm. Great for Adam Hangman Page. Great 20-minute match. And I had said in the group chat, that was like a quick 20 minutes. And it was a great hour. I thought 7 o'clock is a great time.
Yeah, I thought that was a great match. I thought it was a great way to cap off a really good Rampage. In the middle of all of that, we did have the BCC. So you got to see Wheeler Yuta come out with Bryan Danielson, John Moxley, William Regal. He is now an official member of the BCC. What do you think the star potential for Wheeler Yuta is?
Oh, the star potential is very high. He reminds me of Steve Blackman. I can't shake that visual. So it has that feel, of how he was in WWE, that exact look. It's like an exact double. You just hope that he can be a little bit more over, but talk about hitting a home run when you're in the club with the likes of two legendary performers and a legendary figure in the world of wrestling now as a valet. Psh, get out of here. Yuta has to take advantage of it, and I think he will.
I think with him, the one thing that he's kind of work on a little bit is when he's doing his promos, there's got to be a little bit of a different delivery. Sometimes he comes across as, and maybe it'll get worked into his character. I'm not sure, because Wheeler Yuta hasn't been giving a lot of opportunities to speak and cut promos, but he comes across as very flat, very, I don't want to say monotone, but he comes across as very just kind of like almost about business. Like everything is business, and he is just, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go in there and we're going to handle business and we're going to get the win. And it's just like, it's like that. Whereas you got like John Moxley, who's so up and down. It's like a roller coaster when he's cutting a promo. Bryan Danielson will have some highs, will have some lows, and it's just more the inflection about how he's speaking. So I don't know if that just kind of gets worked out or if that just kind of becomes part of his character. But I tend to get a little bit, I really want the best for Wheeler Yuta. I tend to get a little bit sleepy when his promos are going on. So I'm not sure how that kind of plays out going forward. We'll have to see. You want to give us a quick review of Impact this week?
Impact was good. Very good. Kicks off with William Morrissey with an impassioned promo. They were at the ECW arena And Morrissey recalled the last time that he was there, he suffered a seizure, and he thanked the crowd for their support, says that basically the crowd and the support that the fans have showed have allowed him to no longer feel alone. Only then to be interrupted by Chelsea Green, digital media champ Matt Cardona, and Brian Myers. And I thought, wow, what a trio. Nice heel trio. Impact established a great babyface that people can get behind in William Morrissey, and they established a heel group that is highlighted by really a performer in Matt Cardona that people are behind. He damn near owns every independent belt in the world, and his bit was great. He's like, "Please stop promoting me," and people were like going off on that and writing articles. Matt Cardona says, "Stop booking him," and he's like, "I love the internet," because he was being facetious, guys. He understands what it means, is that 2 years ago he was on the scrap heap. Now he's rebranded himself as a guy that potentially could come back in WWE. He just needs to do a little bit more. He's not quite there yet, but potentially moving up through the ranks of Impact. Oh, man, great opportunity. You then had that followed up by Deonna Purrazzo's Champ Challenge, and it was okay, but I'm not exactly sure. Willow Nightingale was somebody that I was like, okay, so I gave it a B-. Nothing great. You know, the finish was awesome. Deonna Purrazzo countering the lariat into her own move was awesome. I think that's great. You know, Nightingale trying to get after it, and making her elevate herself and going for a title. Why not? You had Rocky Romero taking on Jonathan Gresham. I can't wait to see how Gresham now progresses in his role now with Impact over the next few weeks. I think that, when people look at it, this match had a little bit of everything. You had some strong style, technical submission. It just had a little bit of everything, and it was amazing. I just thought that it was a good match. If you only get a chance to watch one match on this card from Impact, Rocky Romero and Jonathan Gresham was pretty sweet. Then you get to, obviously the parts that I like. You had Bullet Club interrupting Honor No More. I'm you can't help but like Bullet Club and what they're doing. And Honor No More with Eddie Edwards, Matt Taven, Kenny King, PCO, Vincent. It's all that stuff with, everything going on with Maria Kanellis cutting a promo. I'll say this. The factions that have emerged in Impact and AEW have really allowed for the expression of a lot of emotions in regards to getting behind a crew of people. And I love seeing Bullet Club in every facet. And the Philadelphia crowd really, really got into this segment. Finally, you had the Monster and Jonah taking on PCO, and at some point, you got to realize PCO is going to be over. Jonah is now being portrayed as the unstoppable force that Bronson Reed really kind of started to kick off at NXT, but really got cut off way prematurely. So many people thought online that PCO could have gotten the win to build the credibility of Honor No More, but Jonah, is going to have a huge match, at New Japan against Tomohiro Ishii, and I think it needs to be, the thinking is for those that are complaining, you need to kind of build a character with Jonah there, so having PCO lose was okay. There's some times where I get what you guys are saying in regards to the wins and losses, but bottom line, the right guy got over. So those two matches, great, made it for an A- show. Really good show for Impact. Jonah taking on PCO, I thought was a highlight as well. The promo from William Morrissey continuing to do his thing. So if you're not checking out Impact, at least check out the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast, where we periodically and, quite frequently talk about Impact a lot more than other podcasts will. So I thoroughly enjoyed Impact this week, adding to the great week of professional wrestling that we had. All right, cuz, hit me at this week's professional wrestling news and notes. I know you're going to clean up some stuff from last week, and you got a plethora of information that you are going to give these fine marks. Hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes.
Before we get into that, what was your show of the week?
Yeah, oh man, it's tough.
It's a good one.
It was good.
It's a good week.
It would have been Dynamite had it not been for an ending. That just brings it way down. So it's got to be Raw. I thought Raw was compact. It told what it needed to tell. You got two feuds going on now that people really want to see in Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes. And whenever you have RK Bro and the Usos staring each other down for the titles, it was pretty sweet. So I'm going to give it to Raw.
All right. I thought Raw was great, but I thought Dynamite was better. I know the final 2-3 minutes of Dynamite kind of sucked, but I thought overall Dynamite was a great show. And if you're a fan of wrestling, you can go watch that for 2 hours and 30 seconds and you'll get your taste. It's the final 2-3 minutes that kind of bleh. All right, so real quick, last week, due to some time constraints, I neglected to mention a massive injury to legit Layla Hirsch. She hurt her knee and had to be carried to the backstage area during a taping of AEW Dark. That happened about 2 weeks ago. It's still unclear as to what the injury is. It looks like it might be an ACL, LCL type of injury. Was very difficult to get confirmation as to what is actually going on with her knee. She ended up going and jumping off of the second rope, and when she landed funny, and she basically stayed down. Referee came over, they gave the X, and medical staff attended to her, and they carried her out. So she is going to be sidelined for a little bit. Now, how about some WWE rankings? Per PW Insider, Cody Rhodes is internally listed as the number 2 babyface on Monday Night Raw, while Bobby Lashley has the top spot and AJ Styles is listed as number 3. I think that's really weird that Bobby Lashley is your number 1 babyface and AJ Styles is number 3. Now, on the heel side of the Raw roster, Seth Rollins is number 1 with that internal list ahead of Kevin Owens, Edge, and Damian Priest. Now, on the blue brand, Roman Reigns is still listed as the brand's top heel and notably doesn't feature on the Raw roster, which I find interesting seeing how the championships are merged. Drew McIntyre is reportedly listed as the top babyface on SmackDown. Reigns and McIntyre met during a multi-man dark match after WWE, which, Doc, can you tell us a little bit about that? Give us a little insight on what you got for your dark match there to close out Monday Night Raw on Monday.
Yeah, the match that was before Monday Night Raw was Tommaso Ciampa taking on, was it the guy, T something, whatever it is, one of those gimmicks that we all go like T-bone or whatever it was.
Oh, T-bar?
T-bar.
T-bag.
Yeah, exactly. T-bag, T-bar. That was a banger of a match. Good 7-minute intro. Tommaso Ciampa got over. And in the dark match, it was advertised as Roman Reigns against Drew McIntyre, which I wanted to see. And then Kenny said that lately they've been doing that. But in essence, Roman Reigns, and really, which is crazy to think about, because after the match the Usos had, they then made him wrestle again in the dark match. They wrestled,
really?
Yeah, they wrestled basically for Roman Reigns, who basically stood on the ring and did heel tactics. And I was like, well, is he hurt? Is he like kind of walking gingerly? Kenny said, yeah, probably the way he kind of was moving around gingerly. But he said that basically Roman Reigns has been fighting for the last few months basically only on pay-per-views, and in the house shows, he's been basically relying on 6-man tags, and it was against the New Day and McIntyre, and they got over. The highlight was Paul Heyman talked to this Samoa Joe-looking dude in the crowd, and the crowd was chanting ECW, let Heyman fight, and Paul Heyman got on the mic, and he goes to the crowd, I will not fight Drew McIntyre. I will not fight the New Day before that Samoa Joe looking fat twat out there in the crowd comes down comes down. And the guy took his shirt off and started to come down. Everybody got over and the crowd was like, let them fight. The New Day was doing it. So they had the dark match fun with it. The guy didn't come down, but Paul Heyman was awesome on the mic. Like I said, Roman Reigns basically got in there for a little bit of action, but he did the business, and he got in there for the heel moves outside of the ring, doing the heel stuff. But yeah, I was like, damn, who did the Usos piss off? You have a 25-minute match and then another 20 minutes with the New Day in a dark match. I was like, damn. But in the end, they went to 11:30. It was a half hour. The New Day came out after the win and said, thank you, Detroit. This crowd is always unbelievable. You were one of the factors that makes coming, make the New Day really take off back in the day. So we always love coming to Detroit. And yeah, it went from 7:30 to 11:30, and it was a banger. It was a fun situation all the way around. So good dark match there.
Well, that sounds like it was awesome. I will tell you this, going to WWE live shows, usually your dark matches are pretty fantastic. I know when I went to the taping of SmackDown before New Year's Eve a couple of years ago, we got Roman Reigns in his match that ended up being aired on New Year's Eve. So it was pretty cool. It was awesome to see. Now, Brock Lesnar reportedly won't be at WrestleMania Backlash. It's the pay-per-view that's coming up next month, despite previously being advertised to appear. Now, according to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, WWE never had any plans for Lesnar to wrestle at Backlash, and he has never been booked for the show in any capacity. Lesnar last appeared on WWE programming at the main event of WrestleMania 38. What do you think happens with Brock Lesnar going forward? He's just going to be used for massive pay-per-views. Like, Backlash isn't a massive pay-per-view. Is he just going to be a guy when it's one of the big four he shows up? How does this kind of continue? Like, they got their worth out of him. Like, they use the shit out of Brock Lesnar, something that they usually don't do in the build to WrestleMania 38. But for a guy to get paid as much money as he gets paid to only come around once in a while kind of sucks.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a great question. How do you take advantage of Brock Lesnar? Because now he's been defeated a couple times. You've chipped away in regards to the perception of his, destructibility. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what he would tackle next. So I think a good time off, maybe come back at SummerSlam, maybe tackle somebody else on his way to another run. We'll see. But it's okay to put him on the shelf for a minute. He's kind of delivered for a minute.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. At some point, they'll get him back in there just because he makes too much money. Now, in regards to name changes, WWE Chairman Vince McMahon is reportedly behind the decision to change names of several superstars in the recent weeks. According to Meltzer, WWE recently sent a memo to the roster that included a decree from McMahon stating that the company doesn't want its wrestlers using their real names or names they used previously on the independent scene. If that is indeed the case, the most obvious example of that being put to action are changing Walter to Gunther, Pete Dunne to Butch. Other recent name changes include Raquel Gonzalez going to Raquel Rodriguez, Marcel Barthel to Ludwig Kaiser, Raul Mendoza to Cruz del Toro, and Austin Theory just becoming Theory. We talked about this a little bit earlier in the show. Now, WWE owns all of those names, and Raquel was permitted to keep her real name first, but Theory, whose real name is Austin White, had to drop Austin. It was noted that there are some obvious exceptions to this rule, including Cody Rhodes, who recently returned after his 6-year hiatus from the company, and Olympic gold medalist Gable Steveson. I think at some point, Gable Stevenson's name will probably get changed. Cody's will stay the same. So really interesting. Vince wants to own everything, and that's why you can't use your name and the name that you use to get yourself over. Vince has complete control over all things in the WWE universe. He is God. And that's going to do it for this week's wrestling news and notes, my brother.
Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Make sure, if you get our inside jokes, make sure you like it. I know a lot of people are checking out. The best is when people are like, huh, what are you talking about? And
that doesn't make any sense.
That doesn't
it does.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes all the sense in the world.
It makes all the sense in the world when you try to get yourself over, and I'm spitting out all the nonsense there. I thought that was funny. That was the highlight of my week. Confusing other blog sites with the nonsense that is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Oh my gosh, fun stuff. I love when people take things.
You know what the problem is? Sometimes people just take themselves a little too serious.
Exactly.
The one thing that I've learned about doing this whole thing with you, right?
Right.
Is you just need to have fun. Just don't take yourself so serious.
Dude, exactly. It's like backstory. I wrote a story about and obviously, I work at SI.com. So when SI.com breaks news about the Lions, I will link to SI.com. It keeps the flow going, guys. It keeps the train on the tracks. Is if I have a following and then I link to the following of the company that's paying me, then hey, we keep the train on the tracks. And it's a symbiotic, beautiful relationship. And this is kind of how it works. So a reporter from SI.com had some beautiful information. So I just reported the information, highlighted it. And so that's all it was. And some other serious site is like, consider the source. Bro, do you think I give a fuck? Dude, do you think I don't, to be honest, I'll share with you guys, if you listen to this long, I don't even care if it's true or not. Do you think I give a flying fuck if it's true or not? Dude, I wrote it, I get engagement, I move on to the next thing. Guys, come on. There's some things that you realize, you know, in the world of sports, it could be true, it could not be true. But that doesn't matter. In my world, it doesn't matter. As long as it gets people looking at things and talking and helping the cause, I'm doing my job. Period. So if you think I care if it's true or not, it's like the last thing on my mind. But, 20% of the time, 100% of the time, for 40% of the audience, I'm definitely curious to see the relevancy of 20%, of 50%, of 100% of the information that comes across my way. You understand? Basic shit, And they're like, huh? It's like, guys, come on. First things first, look at my bio. It says entertainment. I'm here to entertain, stir it up a little bit, cause a little bit of debate, and keep it moving. If you're looking for hardcore, fact-based knowledge, Detroit Sports Podcast might not be the site that you get your jollies off with. You know what I mean? But it's funny. It's funny at the highest level when people look at it from that perspective. Yeah, I want people to look at our stuff, but bottom line, it's sports. It's not that serious, guys. It's do you like a guy? Do you not like a guy? I could assume at the same time, today, maybe Sunday or tomorrow, I'll write that they do like this said player. It's the bottom line is sports is about debating. It's about emotion. It's about putting out information. The relevancy and the exact hardcore nature of journalism that can be done at CNN and Fox about the world stuff. Sports is fun. Sports is entertainment. Sports is pure emotion. That's why I love it. And that's why me and Adam and all the crew have had success, is that we've been able to have fun with it, not take ourselves seriously, talk shit, and give our perception and perspective in the world of professional wrestling. If you like it or don't like it, hit us up. We listen, we debate. Shout out to Dennis Farrell, who did a bad thing with his facial hair. Check it out at Detroit Podcast. Did a bad thing. And I think it'll be corrected real quick. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the Lebanese madman, the DOC, the notorious DOC. Make sure you check in again for next week's edition of the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast.